How are you?
I'm good. Welcome back. I see you took you
Thank
a
you.
little bit longer to get your Facebook working there. It's out of practice there.
I am. I was like, and I don't have my mouse with me, so I had to use this silly keypad thingy on my laptop, and I was like, how do I do this again? What do I say? What do I call this? I was like, what's the date? 9th of November. It's so wild, but it's very entertaining to be back.
It's the first time
Well,
in ages
and
where it's not a picture of you and then all of a sudden a male appears behind the screen.
I thought I'm just keeping our viewers on their toes. Like, who's it
Right,
gonna be, Nick or me? Like,
right.
yes, but luckily you're consistent, Bruno. I must say, thank you for being the consistent one that's always there. Like, but on the other side, it's Nick or I, and lately more Nick than I.
It's fine. It's fine. How are things going?
Good, good,
That's good.
very busy. I think you'll agree with me. This time of the year is just
Mm,
hectic. All the landlords that realize, oh my goodness, I can't go on holiday
mm,
because my tenant hasn't been paying me since last year, October. Maybe we should get those evictions going now. And we're seeing wild things. We're really seeing weird things. We're actually currently busy with an eviction on an urgent basis, normal residential eviction,
yeah, that's the one.
because of
Please do. Yeah,
intimidation. Yeah,
yeah.
so it's just bizarre. We're seeing very weird, out of the ordinary things. On the commercial side of things, we seeing really nasty things coming from tenants, like intimidation to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
As the attorneys, which I mean, we used to that sometimes
Mm.
in like your more inner city building residential evictions, but I've never seen that in commercial evictions, and we're suddenly seeing that. So it's like the entire world's gone completely crazy. That's what's happening in
Absolutely.
my life.
And it actually goes to that second question we were going to discuss, which I mean, we can actually bring in now since it's relevant. But so things like court recess and what I was going to mention is like silly season.
Yes.
So you might hear attorneys and advocates, lawyers in general, speak about silly season, and I think this is exactly what you're referring to,
Yeah.
because because we're seen as the problem solvers, and people want to have enough.
Thank
Uh,
you. Somebody was calling you, Bruno.
yes, yeah, sorry about that.
See, I still know what's happening here.
See, I forgot to put my phone on do not disturb. Damn it. Um, yeah, but silly season is a real thing that lawyers go through, and it's a psychological thing. And surprisingly enough, it's not only restricted to human beings. Like corporate psychology is.
Ah, that person really wants to talk to you, Bruno.
Somehow the banks don't understand that if you reject a call, it's because you're busy. And yesterday when I answered and I went, I rejected the call 3 times. Yes, it's because I'm in a meeting. Oh, I'm sorry. And you're
I'm
like, why are you surprised? I rejected it 3 times. You cannot possibly be surprised that I was in a meeting or busy with something else. Anyway, I'm not going to
exactly.
mention this. But yeah, so silly season people, corporate psychology, human psychology, want things done before December.
Mm.
And this ties into the second question, court recess, and what that means for our
Mm.
viewers and all the litigants out there. Yeah, so I mean, I'll just start off that part. So a basic court recess is, for all intents and purposes, a break. Everyone needs a break. This break is something a lot more formal. So during this period of time, there's certain consequences over this period of time. So like, especially with opposed matters, you're not going to be hearing trials. You're not going to be hearing opposed applications unless it is of a very, very urgent nature. So certain legal processes can still run in the background. Yeah, I mean, I'm not even going to start getting to DA's non and things like that. Or you can explain to everyone what DA's non is. But court recess is pretty much what recess means, which is during a period of time, typically from what, mid-December till the end of Jan usually. I don't know.
Yeah,
I actually have,
usually recess, yeah, it's from about the 15th thereabouts to the 8th, 9th, 10th of Jan.
sure, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Somehow,
Yeah, and there's none in a similar time period, also around the 15th to the 7th, 8th of Jan.
but Diaz non was always such an interesting debate because of what's actually, so Diaz non, for everyone's sake, is, so during this recess period, certain things you can do in court, certain things you can't do in court. So what Diaz non means is, because court works a lot with time frames, we, certain time frames for certain things are suspended. But we've had so many arguments on what is actually supposed to be suspended, what isn't.
Yeah.
Unlike the very high courts that issue a statement and they specify it, the lower courts, have different rules when it comes to that.
Exactly, and I think that's the surprise, because recess, for instance, in the High Court, I mean, you're supposed to still be able to run your normal unopposed motions. So an eviction, for the viewers' benefit, it shouldn't really be affected. The problem is, what's really affected is the sheriffs. So the sheriffs tend to close now, which the 5th, not now, I mean, it's the 9th of November, sorry, viewers, just I'm already in 2023, so just bear with me. But so from about the 15th of December, some even earlier, like around the 10th of December, they close all the way through to like the 10th or the 15th of Jan. Now, the problem is the sheriffs are still supposed to serve on an urgent basis. And for an eviction, you're anyway going to use urgent service because, it's sort of an important let's move quickly type of thing. But the problem is the sheriffs during this time period tend to charge really exorbitant rates to do urgent service. So as much as we can still issue court documents, as much as we can start, if your property is in an area where the sheriff that has to serve the eviction application on the specific tenant, if that sheriff is sticky, we have a problem. And I think, Bruno, I think you'll agree with me, very often our clients get frustrated with us as the eviction attorneys, thinking that we're the cause for delays, where in fact we're reliant on the sheriff, we're reliant on the municipality very often, we're reliant on the court every single time for our dates and things. And so you can be the quickest, most effective eviction lawyer in the country, and you're going to run into delays when it comes to service and things like that. So as much as theoretically we can continue with evictions as normal, there will be a delay. Most of the time we're able to carry on pretty normal. That's why we SSLR doesn't close at all, not even between Christmas and New Year. We stay open. Just public holidays we close. You too, hey? Or do you close between Christmas and New Year?
So I've got skeleton staff basically working through just especially with urgent eviction applications and things like that.
Yeah, because especially this time of the year, you get the weird things and you want to get going. And but sorry, the DS non thing. Luckily, I think I've seen a few attorneys that believe, for instance, whatever, anything that's not a pleading. So all your notices, the time period still run as normal. And with things like an application for summary judgment and so on, they miss the mark completely. But I think the only reason why you don't miss the mark on DS non is because you did miss it once and you had to explain to client. And from there on, you will never make the DS non mistake again.
Yeah, that's so true. It's so true. And what we find a lot of, and I suppose clients also need to know this, is unfortunately what ends up happening is, us from an eviction perspective, there are certain limitations, but because other attorneys' offices do close, even if you try to serve certain documents on people at certain times, it's of very little use. We even get to the point where we serve documents up to the Christmas break, and the other attorneys will just ignore it. By the next year, you might even go in and argue, well, technically the time has now lapsed. You had a nice extended break, but that's meaningless to us. You need to answer. And they actually get away with filing affidavits at court going, well, the client or the attorney withdraws from record, and the client goes to a new attorney, and the excuse is, well, he was on holiday, it wasn't my fault, I didn't know, what am I supposed to do? And they do get away with it. So I think going back to like our COVID talks, it always comes down to, you know, when it's Christmas, everyone kind of just has a little bit of an understanding. Just give it that week at least, like for 1 week. Try avoid fighting. But yeah, it is.
But that is fighting time of the year, Bruno. That's like the
Yeah.
moment between Christmas and New Year. That's when the divorces, the evictions, all the fun
Yeah.
stuff happen, right?
No, it's not true. No, it's insane. It is actually insane. But yeah, it is one of those things, like very little happens during that time of the year because effectively very little can happen. But yeah, I mean, you know, truth be told, if it is serious enough, like do take action. But as Cilna mentioned, like over that period, we do typically stay open. So I mean, as soon as you get to that time of the month where defaults start happening,